Hey, this is Andrew from Precursor Productions, and in this video we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is how can I save money when I go into the studio to make a recording of my band, my song, etc. And I guess as a studio owner, the short answer to this question is that you should not be concerned about saving money. You should spend as much money as possible. But in all seriousness, I think we all are concerned about actually working within a budget. And so I think one of the first things to do is actually to establish a budget range. And I think a lot of people don't know a lot about the recording process, so they become really reluctant when they come into the studio to even quote a budget. But talk with your band members if you guys are financing it all together, or look at what your personal finances are and come up with a range. What's the minimum amount that you expected to spend, say, per song? And what is a maximum amount that you would be able to afford to spend? And a really good person at a studio who's a studio manager or producer or engineer will be able to talk to you about that and take a look at whether you're being realistic for your budget. The next thing is what are your expectations, right? Do you have an expectation that it should be a world-class sounding recording? Is it going to be a very indie lo-fi recording? Is it somewhere in between those extremes? I think that's an important question for you to ask yourself. So you have a sense of what you can afford to spend in a minimum and maximum sense, say per song. And if you have a sense of what your expectations are, maybe even some example recordings to show the person you're going to be working with, that is definitely a good starting point. It's going to really help to develop a good sense of communication, a good dialogue between you and the people that you're working with in the studio, who will typically be producers and engineers. Now, another way that you can save money is by being prepared, right? Actually writing a good song and doing that to the full extent that you're capable of, rehearsing your piece of music, if it's a song or other type of composition, and being prepared for the studio. And so if you know, for example, you can play a song really effectively as a band where you play it all together, but you're going to be required in the studio to have maybe one or two people at a time performing parts. A good example would be a drummer and bass player playing through the song in its entirety in order to be recorded individually, or a drummer with a guitar player playing through the song. Make sure that you've had an opportunity to practice in that way so that you can all individually lay your parts down if you're going to be required to do so. That'll save a lot of time. Common problem is the bands think if they can jam something together and play it live, that they can also play it individually when they've got headphones on. And trust me, it can be a bit of a disconcerting process to go from the vibe of playing in a full band in a jam space or a live show, where you've got a lot of human feedback, to being in a studio with a set of headphones on in kind of a weird padded room. There's other circumstances where you end up in padded rooms, so hopefully you won't find yourself in that circumstance when you're recording in the studio. Now, in terms of the actual other things that we can do to save money in the studio, this is one that I think a lot of people think is more controversial, but I think it's becoming something that we're a lot more comfortable with in this day and age, and that is taking on some part of the music production process yourself. Now, the reality is, as an engineer, there are a lot of professionals out there, recording engineers, mastering engineers, producers, and as one of them, I definitely don't want to put down our skills because we are valuable people with a lot of experience. We can bring a lot to your process, and ultimately, if we're doing our job, we can save you a lot of money and get you a great product. But that said, I think that a lot of the recording process, for example, can be taken on by artists themselves. So educating yourself on how to do that, even if you just take on some of the recording tasks, can be a great way to save money. And believe me, it is very possible to record yourself professionally within a home or domestic environment, a jam space, etc. If you know what you're doing and you take a few basic necessary steps. So taking on some of the recording process is one way to do that. For some people, they can even take on all of the recording process. I've dealt with many clients who are very capable of doing that, and it wasn't that long of a road and that much cost of equipment or setup for them to get to that point. It just depends on your project and your willingness to learn. Now, in some cases, some people actually can even get involved in participating in the mixing and mastering process. Now, these are more technical skills, so you're going to need a lot more training and a lot of desire to do these things if you're going to get involved in that process, but it is something that you can consider. Even if you try taking some training in that regard, you may find it's not for you, and it just may reaffirm that you like recording your songs, but you prefer to hire other people to mix and master them. Or it could go the other way. You could end up taking on some of the editing and mixing tasks and then hire engineers to just enhance your final product. These are all really viable ways of recording in the modern world. I think that there is a lot of defensiveness on the part of a lot of studios in that they want people to come and pay for the entire product there. And I think that some artists who have only worked in a traditional way feel that the only way to get a good product is through working with a professional studio the entire way through. I think this may sometimes be the case, but I think in this world of self-made media, we have to be a little more realistic. I think that people are making good recordings on their own, and with a little bit of knowledge, you can save yourself a lot of money. So those are some tips on how to save money during recording, and they're things that in our experience have been very beneficial to people who've exercised them. I hope you found something that works for you. So if you'd like to learn more about how to get the most out of your experience in the studio, Simply head over to precursorproductions.com and sign up for our email list. When you do that, I'm going to send you 20 videos that outline how to save time, money, and get the best product when you're working in the studio. I'm also going to offer you 10% off of any of our professional audio production services. So head over to precursorproductions.com, enter your name in our mailing list, and you'll start getting those videos and the discount immediately.